Greetings, fellow musicologists. I'm Alex Tamulis. Welcome to the channel. Today's the day to defend an album that turns 27. I have a knack for albums that most people hate. This year, Black Sabbath's worst album, according to critics, turns 27. It's the last album that lead singer Tony Martin was part of. I defend that we need to evaluate albums as if they were islands. So they're independent from each other and they're just works of an artist and within that context that they're born in. So without further ado, let's look at 27 clues that you might have missed or you might have trusted critics back then in 1995, and the album, you just passed it. But now it's time to revisit the album. I guarantee you'll have a good time. All right, so number 27, naming the album Forbidden. This always leads to thoughts of Adam and Eve, thoughts of the forbidden fruit, about stories, epic tales, religion. So the title already gets you in the mood for that context. So even though the lyrics of the song are not really about that, I believe that it's a good way for us to set the scene. Okay, so the Grim Reaper is another one, number 26. The full moon, right on the cover. People say that the cover is horrible. I respect your opinion, but I love it. Come on, you got a full moon, you got darkness, you got the Grim Reaper. You can't really get any better than that. Number 25, well, the concept of the Grim Reaper sparkled by the image that you look while you listen to the lyrics and the songs. The Reaper is a supernatural being. It's known for its deep spiritual connection to death, to the rite of passage. So, these elements are really connected. So it's duty, it's to help the lost souls to pass on to the afterlife, right? So Black Sabbath, they also talked about it in Master of Reality. So it's literally, the Reaper of lost souls. Number 24, now the rockers that somehow cheated death by keeping metal alive, the flame of inspiration, they live on through the music. They keep the balance between the human and the spiritual world using what? The lyrics and the melodies as the interface. And now number 23, I have the dictator metaphor. I call it with illusion of power, because what is power? Power is, according to a great thinker, Michel Foucault, power is controlling the truth. So that means who dictates, someone like a king or a politician will feel like they have the power to tear the world apart. But in reality, they make up stories, they create these ideologies in order to control everything. But it's always imaginary, things, they seem to be real. But the reality is that death is coming for everyone. The only reality that we have is that we know that the Grim Reaper will come here. So you have illusion of power. With authority, but you have power de facto by the Reaper. So, let politicians think that, and till death do us part. Number 22, well, we have Ice-T. The problem with bringing people from other genres becomes something, oh my God, this is a big no-no, and it's no problem whatsoever. I mean, obviously, it's a political stance. You bring a rapper to do a poem declamation. It's really conducive to the atmosphere of the song. I just don't understand why so many people don't like that perspective. It's just another dimension.
Terrified of true power, you fear.
Another political stance in a way, which will lead me to number 21, which is Tony Martin doing spoken word, kind of like, on Illusion of Power. We have a song with a political color. So it's, riff. The riff is really demonic. It's slow. It's very doomy. And it would be really hard to sing a melody on top of that. So, we have the stanza declamations and it's all fine and dandy. And it's different because it sounds, devilish with Black Sabbath and Tony Iommi, the classic, boom, wow, wow, and all the riff really, really comes through. Number 20, well, the power of authority. You have to regain control of your life. So, Tony Martin is singing, Mr. Politician, you stick with the game of politics and authority and guns. And, it's about ethics. It's about the theme of the album, like death, forbidden issues, which takes me to number 19, which is the search for knowledge. Once you start wondering and pondering, once you see things from this critical perspective, you're already on your way to freedom, all right? There's no way for you to cheat death unless you're able to keep the flame of knowledge out there, living through various means, and one of the means is art and music, or art and metal in this case. Number 18, Living Color, Get a Grip. It sounds a lot like Living Color. It's like this extreme form of groovy funk metal. And Living Color also talks about the cults of personality, right? So narcissistic personalities that are pervasive in political worlds. So I really love listening to that groovy riff, and it's very, very, very much like the early 90s, Black Sabbath was trying to sound contemporary back then, to bring the youth to their crowd. So they were trying to evolve, trying to mingle. It's important for bands to appeal to the youth. Number 17 now, the Alice in Chains meets Skid Row vibes on the third track. Can't get close enough. It starts as if this should definitely be sung by Lane Staley. 'Cause you're just too far away. Then it gets to a more hard rock vibe. It speeds up a little bit, and it's got this Skid Row style with the riffs and the vocal melody. If you think Number 16, Tony Martin really introduced us to the topic of narcissism, as I was saying. There's really no way for us to get close to a person who lacks empathy. So it's always about, the ego, the needs, which takes me to number 15. Most of us are really chained to that 9-to-5 work life. Most of us really can't be free. The modern life is really kind of like shackles. So you have these imaginary shackles, but these handcuffs, in a way, they are the illusion of power. And Foucault, the thinker, he calls it disciplinary power. It's the enforced obedience, conformity that controls and coerces you into waking up in the morning, doing your menial tasks. And this has to be taken into account. And you see, metal can be an avenue for you to trigger your rebellion against these things. Metal is freedom, or at least it's freer than other genres. And that will lead me to number 14, which is the exotic vibe of the power chords on Shaking Off the Chains, next song, song number 4. Only to you have that amazing metal riff. You have hard rock vocal melodies, and then he bellows, I'm shaking off the chains. Wow. I'm shaking off the chains! It's like this epic moment. But number 13 will be about sorrow and sadness, because the following song, I Won't Cry For You, it's this narcissistic politician who's looking back on his life. And this is just an example. It could be anyone, but let's imagine someone who's done lots of bad things and is now regretting it. So, death's around the corner, and let's say you've taken things for granted and you were really blind. Now maybe there's no time for you to save yourself anymore, and you will just drown in tears. And obviously Black Sabbath won't cry for you because you dug that hole yourself. Now it's time to really man up and accept that. Number 12. Well, the solo and the rhythm section on the song I Won't Cry For You, it reminds me of Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin, these epic, heavy ballads. It's really fun to listen, and the track, like Tony Martin, has got that raspy, hard rock, typical voice, and it's a really great vibe for that song. Let's talk about Guilty as Hell. That's number 11. The album is dealing again with taboo, with forbidden things, the things that really have access when you eat the apple of knowledge, the forbidden fruit. So Guilty as Hell obviously will delve into that theme. It's described as this self-conscious emotion that involves negative evaluations of yourself, feelings of distress, feelings of failure, and obviously you sing about these, guilty complex, and you're going to feel the anxiety, and that's really what comes out when you listen to the song. Number 10, the blues rock. You have a song called Sick and Tired, track number 7, right? And this song has got lots of like White Snake vibes. It reminds me of a Journey. Like loving, touching, squeezing, for example. You need to really understand that in the early 90s, a band like Whitesnake was huge, right? With hits like Is This Love? Journey was also big in the late 80s. These guys were playing like huge stadiums. I imagine that Tony Iommi had pressures from the record label to sound more like bands like we're doing this AOR hard rock thing, and I think he tried it, and he tried it in previous albums as well. But today I'm only focusing on The Island, which is forbidden, which will lead me to number 9, which is the topic of narcissism and self-centeredness on the song Sick and Tired, talking about the lyrics. They're pointing out to the egos and to the lack of empathy, things that ruin relationships, and the narcissist becomes a victim of his own or her own projection. Well, let's go to number 8. The hard rock vibe, the Journey-like vibe on Rusty Angels. You can picture Neil Schon playing the solo or the riff. It's got this major feel, it's very much like AOR influenced. And Tony Martin, he is a hard rock singer. In my opinion, he's heavily influenced by Freddie Mercury and Paul Rogers, obviously Dio. Number 7, the tense juxtaposition that you have with Rusty Angel. It's someone who seems to be great on the outside, but they're actually rotten on the inside. So again, you have references of appearance or social norms, projections, ideals, status. It's a really interesting concept, and it's linked to how things happen in real life. Number 6, the fact that we are beginning grunge now. It's a very favorable time for Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, and not really Black Sabbath. So in order to renew like your crowd, they've tried to, go with Ernie C. from the rap metal group Body Count to help with the production. They were trying to keep up with the times, but I have to say that the mix of the album it's not really great. We know that, right? I understand that Tony Iommi will probably release a remixed or remastered version of Forbidden in the near future. Hopefully, they will bring up the bass, right? It never hurts to do that. All right, let's look at number 5. Well, people say this is the worst Sabbath album. Every time I see that or I hear something like that, I always think, hey, I got to scan this album in detail. I got to really dig into that. Kind of like with Saint Anger or Load and Reload. You got to do some detective's work. You're trying to reveal aspects that others might have missed. You don't have benchmarks. You just analyze that album and you treat that as a context. And you look at the lyrics and the melodies. Number 4, the reunion with Ozzy. I think that was a huge, it was a letdown in a way. The album Forbidden could have been more polished, better mixed. But due to these talks about the reunion, things got worse. Number 3, the Rocky Balboa vibes of Forbidden. When you listen to the song, it's got this super hard rock AOR, just like, oh my God, this sounds like Survivor or Journey or Boston or Toto, Winger. And it feels like going back in time, it's like, oh my God, I'm back in the early 90s. Now this is time for some nostalgia. It's good to have that when you listen to the song. Number 2, The Kiss of Death, the last song. again, we know that death is inevitable. We close the album with this, more existential vibe. It's very cool. The accents that the guitar and the bass are doing, the drums with Cozy Powell. And then it turns to this grungy Soundgarden vibe. Really interesting, really great way to close. And then number one, again, Cozy Powell. A monster of a drummer. The lineup, the drum kit, the mix is not really that great, but the playing is unmatched. Unbelievable. So, the late Cozy Powell, and then you got Neil Murray on the bass. Some of the parts feel like a bit rushed with the riffs and the mixing, like I said, the vocal melodies and the vocal tracks. They probably could have done more. But regardless, I defend that Forbidden is a really exciting album for you to listen to. It's all about the songs in the beginning. And I can't believe that it's been like 20 years since its release. So much has happened since 1995, but when you listen to it, it's like you're going to have a good time, and the lyrics are really interesting in various points. So I wanted to really focus on that and present you some good ideas about what Forbidden stands for. Please subscribe and hit the bell button if you like this type of content. Music is what music does. Bye now.